Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott, where I talk all about life, love, healing, spirituality, witchcraft, magic, tarot, and everything in between. I've got my co-host, Awaz, here with me, and so if you hear any meows, that is what is going on, but she is being weirdly quiet this morning. Go figure. Anyway, so for today's podcast episode, I wanted to tell a story about why it's important to follow your intuition, even if you don't really know why, even if it doesn't really make sense, even if the stakes are pretty low. So let me explain why. So as I'm recording this, it's Friday today, and this story is from Wednesday afternoon. So if any of y'all are in my courses or have read either of my books, but especially my second book, Curse and Cure, Magic for Real Life, or if you're in my big magic course, Magic Without Bullshit, and I think I might even talk about this in Tarot Without Bullshit, but I always encourage folks, whether you are a newer witchy human or someone who has been doing this stuff for a long time, I always encourage folks to go on what I call energy walks. So what is an energy walk? So the really short version of it is you leave your house, you leave your apartment, and you go on a random walk with no real plan, no destination, no set time frame, really, literally no plan. Not listening to any podcasts, you're just walking. And how do you decide where to walk? You feel your intuition, you follow the energy, you see where the energy around you on each street pulls you. Where do you feel drawn like a magnet? So a few weeks ago, I did this after a series of really long phone calls with various financial institutions because someone hacked my business credit card. So crazy. So all the people, read your statements just in case. Anyway, after that, I was like, I need to just expend some energy and just walk. And so I ended up going on, I kid you not, a 10-kilometer energy walk in flip-flops without really planning that's what I was going to be doing. And it ended up being really awesome. And I went down these streets in my neighborhood that I had never been down, and the trees were so huge and magical, and the houses looked like they were from a storybook, like fairy tale type of vibe. And it honestly was just so wondrous and beautiful and surprising and mundane and just awesome. So that was a really cool adventure. And on Wednesday, I looked at my kilometers walked in my phone, and I was like, oh my God, I've walked like no kilometers today. So I kind of want to go on a little walking adventure. Like, let's go on an energy walk and see where we end up. And so I had a doctor's appointment downtown, and after that, I just decided to walk instead of taking the bus home. And so I went on this random walk. There was my cat. So I went on a random energy walk down streets I had never been down before, and I ended up at a farm in the middle of downtown. And it was so magical. There was cows, there was goats, there was horses, there was sheep. There was really cool, like old weird buildings that looked kind of like a German cottage in an old fairy tale. It was just awesome. Like, it was so magical just to stumble upon this kind of in the middle of the city, in the middle of the day, just going on a little energy walk, chilling, and just seeing where the vibes took me, right? And I posted this on my Instagram stories a few days ago. I saw this like pathway into this dark woods within this farm's property. And of course, since I'm super curious, there was two dark pathways. And I went down one, and it just took me in this little loop. I was like, okay. And the other one, I was like, this looks even darker. And scarier. And I wonder if, since honestly I spent a really long time living in the middle of downtown, and so my stranger danger, like, I don't know, vibes are always pretty much up to 11 whenever I'm downtown. But I was kind of like feeling some weird vibes. I was like, I got this intuition, like, don't go down there. And I was thinking, you know what, like, is that my intuition? Like, I guess it is, but is that my intuition because it's actually dangerous, or is this just my fear talking? Is this just my fear talking and being paranoid? There's going to be some creepy person down there to attack me, camping out in the woods, and I'm going to get, like, murdered or something. Like, obviously, I watch too much true crime. But, like, honestly, you never know, right? There's, like, a huge homeless problem in this city where I live, and it's, like, crazy people everywhere. Crackheads are everywhere. It can be a bit hectic at times. And so the fear was not super unreasonable, there was some logic to it. And so I had this, like, reaction of, like, don't go down there. And so I decided to ignore that, because I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't intuition. Obviously it was intuition, but my intuition was like, don't go down there. And so what was so interesting, if I'm going to slow it down, my intuition said, don't go down there. And then my rational, paranoid mind, I know it sounds like contradiction, but my rational thinking, paranoid mind then interpreted that intuition as, oh, I need to face this fear because I'm a big, strong woman and I can go down there and it's going to be fine. And I'm sure there's nothing down there and I just need to face this irrational paranoia. So I'm going to go down there and show myself there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm going to be fine. It's going to be okay. There's nothing scary. Right? So I do go down there. It's actually beautiful. I posted some pictures on my Instagram stories a few days ago. So if you saw it, you saw it. If you didn't, too bad, I guess. But there was a beautiful little pond, a little forest path. I was wandering around in my flip-flops and shorts, just like wandering in this little forest. And it was really awesome. Honestly, it felt really magical. Like, I felt like I was in the middle of a forest, even though I was in the middle of downtown of a big city. And it was just so beautiful and peaceful. And I was walking and there was no one creepy down there and I was completely safe. And so my brain said to myself, like, see, there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, aren't you glad you faced that fear? Isn't that great? Don't you feel more safe in the world now? Awesome. Yes, I did. So I felt victorious, came out of the forest path. Lo and behold, I go back to the main area of the farm. There is no one to be found anywhere. The security guard is gone. All the other people that were there just a few minutes ago are all gone. And I am locked inside the farm. The gates are locked. I wander around. All the gates are locked. And the fence is tall and pointy. And I'm like, holy shit, what am I gonna do? And so I find like a slightly shorter part of the fence, which is still incredibly pointy. And the slats are so close to each other that I can't really get a foothold at all. It's like barely, I couldn't even get a foothold between the slats with my big toe. Like, it wouldn't even fit. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I look around, like, I'm clearly stuck in the farm. I am locked in the farm. No one else is around. I'm like, oh God. And so whenever this kind of thing happens, I always just go into problem solving mode as opposed to panic mode. Like, I think if I couldn't have gotten out after some attempts, I probably would have freaked out, or like called, I don't know, somebody, I don't even know. Someone said I should have done a live stream on Instagram when I was stuck in the farm. That actually would have been a really good idea. I think that would have been actually pretty fun before I jumped to escape. But last opportunity, unfortunately. Anyway, so I hop this fence. It's like I throw my bag over the fence. I throw my sunglasses, my shoes, like, everything over the fence. And then I very challengingly jump over and like make it to the other side, but like my back of my legs are all cut and scraped up and bleeding, and I escaped and I'm free. And I continue walking for probably another hour, like going through this other park and going on an adventure. And so that was my energy walk adventure. And so all this to say, I didn't know why my intuition was telling me don't go down the forest path. My intuition was telling me don't go down the forest path because the farm, unbeknownst to me, was about to close in like 10 minutes. And I didn't know that. I didn't realize what time it was. And there was no announcement and there was no bell ringing or anything like that. And so that was what my intuition was saying. My intuition was like, don't go down there. Not because it's dangerous and you're going to get stabbed by a creepy murderer, but because the farm is about to close and you're going to get locked in if you don't leave now. And so it's just a great example of how sometimes we can misinterpret like the why of our intuition. Like I interpreted that intuition as being like, I misinterpreted it a few ways actually, which is pretty interesting because of my own like baggage. Fascinating, right? And so, but what my intuition was actually telling me, which my logical mind didn't even know the hours of operation. I had no idea the hours of operation until I jumped over the fence and looked at the sign, and it closed at 5 p.m. and I jumped over the fence at like 5:05 or something like that. So I just barely got locked in, but I didn't know that. Like I had no idea what the hours of this place was, but my intuition, my body's ability to read the energy around me was like, you need to leave now. Right? Like it didn't tell me the why to leave now. It just said you shouldn't go down there. And so this is a perfect example, like very low stakes, I guess. Like it's not the end of the world. Like if I was an elderly person or not as flexible as I am, like it would obviously be a bit more of a problem. And I probably would have had to like call the fire people or the police or something to like bust me out of there. But like it was very hard for me to jump the fence, but ultimately it didn't take me that long and I was able to figure it out. If I was someone with like more mobility issues or older or whatever, like that probably would have been a bigger problem, right? And so this is such a good example of why we should follow our intuition, even about stupid stuff. Like even if it doesn't seem to make any sense, even if it's not logical to our mind at the moment, all of that. Like if I decide to listen to that intuition and leave, I probably would have realized like, oh, that's why my intuition was telling me that. Like they're kind of ushering everyone out right now, right? Or I would have noticed the gate get closed behind me as I was leaving. I would have been like, oh, that's what my intuition was about, I guess. But I decided to ignore it and go on an adventure instead. And so obviously, in this case, it wasn't the end of the world. Like I just got a little bit bloody, jumped the fence, got some scrapes, had a crazy story to tell, not the end of the world, right? But that drama could have been avoided if I just listened to my intuition. And so again, I just want to emphasize the importance of listening to your intuition, even when it doesn't make sense, or even when it seems irrational, or even when it doesn't seem like the stakes are that high. And in this case, they kind of weren't really that high. Like I just had to jump a fence, got cut, whatever, not the end of the world. But for someone else, that could have been, a worse situation that they would have had a lot more trouble getting out of, right? And so all of this to say, your intuition is so powerful. Your intuition is really important, and it's picking up on stuff that you don't even know that it's picking up on. Like I said, I had no idea the hours of this place. Zero idea at all. And yet somehow my intuition, my body, it knew that the place was closing and I was about to get locked in. Right? And so as a result of this silly story, which I hope you guys find entertaining, it's just a reminder to pay attention to your intuition and listen to it, even when it seems stupid or irrelevant. As you never really know what your intuition is going to save you from. In this case, it was going to save me from hopping a very pointy fence. But hey, then I wouldn't have this story to tell you, right? So listen to your intuition, my friends, even if it doesn't seem logical or rational or whatever. Your body and your energy is picking up on so much other energies and other bodies that are around you. So give your intuition a chance to speak to you. And when you listen to it, it gets even stronger. Okay, my friends, that's it for today. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Happy October. I have so many more episodes to record this month. I've actually decided to plan out my episodes for this month, which I never do because I have so much to say, and I feel like October is such a good month for witchiness, spookiness, tarot. I'm going to be relaunching Tarot Without Bullshit, so if that is interesting to you, please keep your eyes and ears peeled. And there's going to be a few workshops also happening this month, and I guess early next month too, as we ease into spooky season. I love the fall, no matter, I don't know, like where you guys are viewing, listening, whatever from, but here in Toronto, it's the fall, and honestly, I'm obsessed. I just ordered a new turtleneck that came in. I'm like ready for the fall weather. I also have a new tarot journal out, which I'm going to talk about in the next episode just because I have so much to say about it. I don't want to clog up this episode, but there's nothing else out there like it, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about in the next episode about why I made it, what's the deal, and how you can get the most out of it if you decide to pick it up. Okay, friends, that's it from me for now. Happy weekend. Much love. Bye.